Welcome and thanks for joining us for Being Understood. My name is Lani Jordan and I'm Senior Counsel here at Thunheim, and I'm joined by my two colleagues who we jokingly refer to as the Hill brothers, Ben Hill and Doug Hill. Not really brothers, but
yeah, as far as we know,
colleagues.
appreciate that, Lani. As far as we know, we're not related, but we do share the same last name. So.
Well, looking forward to a great conversation with the two of you today about how organizations can manage at the federal level in this time of a tremendous amount of upheaval and ongoing change.
Yeah, absolutely. Incredibly important topic for a lot of organizations, businesses right now. Every day, it's just you wake up and you never know what's going to happen. And so navigating those difficult waters is something that we can help people with here at Thunheim. My background, I've done a number of things, but on the federal level, I worked for U.S. Senator Amy Klobuchar for a number of years. She represents Minnesota, of course. And for her, I had a background. I started in communications. And then I was promoted to the state director. And that meant I was responsible for, working with all sorts of organizations and advocacy groups, nonprofits, all across the state. And so that exposed me to a wide range of issues and interactions with folks who, that the Senator Klobuchar, was important for them to talk with them, understand what their issues are, and also kind of gain an appreciation for how she can be helpful and be their advocate and champion in D.C.
Very much similar to Ben. I started my career with Congressman David Obey. He represented the 7th Congressional District in Wisconsin, and I was fortunate. He was the chairman of the Appropriations Committee, which is the committee in Congress that allocates all the discretionary spending. So that afforded me an opportunity to have entree into all of the federal issues because, of course, the federal budget funds many different parts of the federal government. So that was a really amazing experience working for a very, very intelligent, smart, and thoughtful man. And then after Congressman Obey retired, I had an opportunity to work for then Congresswoman Tammy Baldwin. She was running for U.S. Senate, and I worked on her campaign in northern Wisconsin. And after she won, I became her first state director and set up her state staff and her state offices.
So, well, I come out of a background of a long career in communications. The first chapter as a journalist, but a big chunk of my career was working for the nation's largest farmer-owned cooperative, which had a farmer member board of directors, and worked with them for many years and accompanied them to Washington, D.C. to tell the story of farmer cooperatives and particularly to focus in on some of the issues that they were concerned about in that particular session of Congress, which regularly included the Farm Bill, but also issues related to energy, to taxation, to rural development, and have continued to do some of that and have even had some opportunity to speak in my own voice as an advocate for some of the programs that I've done some international work for, and have learned a lot about what it takes to be effective in those settings. And we can talk about it more today, Ben and Doug, but really it's about knowing your story before you come in and being able to tell it very succinctly and in a memorable way so that when you walk out of the door from that member of Congress, either talking to the member or talking to the staff member, that what you had to say was memorable and meaningful.
I would agree with that. I think as someone approaching or coming in to talk to elected officials, it's really important to know who you're talking to. Specifically, make sure you're talking to your representative or your senator, because those are the people that they're going to be focused on. Those are the people that the staff are going to spend their time with. And I know in our offices, a lot of times, we'd hear from other people who are outside of the district, and we certainly give them courtesy of, hearing what they had to say. But I know both of my members always wanted to know specifically and hear from people who they represent.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's critically important, especially right now, is to connect, what the issues that are important to your story, as Lani mentioned, and connecting that to the impact that it has on their constituents or the people within the district or the state. And I think that's where a lot of politicians are looking right now, and elected officials. If you're talking about a cut to a program or you're talking about funding for a bridge, Why is that going to be important to the people in the district or in the state?
And another thing that's really important is to do your homework in advance, and we'll talk more about the big picture of being an advocate in this environment and what we should be counseling our clients on holistically, but specifically for that outreach to members of Congress. It's understanding what the individual member's viewpoint is, where they are on the spectrum on that issue, and is it more important to talk to them about economic impact or human impact or some other thing? Is this something that they've had a great deal of experience with, that's something they have some passion for, and to have that in mind when you go in there. Sometimes issues that I have worked on, they had no information whatsoever on that specific program, and so you need to know that and know how much of your time you have to spend educating.
I think that's a really good point. I think from my experience, when people would come in either as constituents or lobbyists, they're coming in with, a specific ask and making sure that they know what they're asking for and if the timing is right or not right. I know one of the things that, our firm Thunheim can help is finding out those entry points and that timing. A lot of times people would come into our office and the bill was always already moving forward, or their issue was already moving forward, and they were already behind the curve on it. And I think understanding when to talk to people, the timing, and the place to do it is really important. And I think that's something that we all bring to the table and can help people understand when and where to start.
So I'm interested from your respective perspectives of having been on the member side of these conversations. When you're someone going to be the advocate, it's a big darn deal to you, and your issue is very important, and you want to advocate the best that you can. But you are just one appointment in a very long day of very long meetings and multiple issues that those staffers, and primarily you will be talking to staffers if you go to DC. Occasionally you will have the member themselves. What is it like, put those old hats back on, and what would you recommend?
Well, the first thing, it is true, it would be, the days are crazy, time is limited. But if whether it's the member or a staff, that's an important conversation to them, and I think a lot of people get into that business because they're public servants, and so they're coming in hopefully with an open mind and ready to listen and learn. That said, as we were talking before the podcast started, you need to get to the point. What did you say, Lani?
Don't diesel, which is an expression a couple of us had in my previous life for a few individuals who would get into a conversation and just could not bring it to a close. They were dieseling,
Yes.
just like the motor would not shut off. And so that's the fine, you want to think, what's the last thing I said to that
Yep.
member or that staff member before I left the room? And it needs to be a good, strong closer, not like can't close the conversation.
Yeah, don't diesel.
Exactly.
And so it's just like anytime if you're doing an interview, you're building an argument. So you come out with a strong, here's our position, here's why we're here. You back that up with some facts, why it's important. Maybe include an anecdote, but you need to have a very efficient use of their time. And so being thoughtful, having a handout, having something to illustrate, here's the different projects in your district, here's where they are. That can be super helpful just to make sure it's an efficient and effective conversation.
Exactly.
So I also found on a number of occasions to really close the conversation with that staffer saying that, we know this is only a short meeting, but here's my contact information. And if there's anything additional you need to know, or if I can be a resource or connect you with other people, I am ready to do that. Is that a helpful thing to say?
Oh yeah, 100%. It's incredibly, you got to look at it as either a start or a continuation of the conversation. And the other thing I'd mention is it's good to come in there with, it's nice to do an FYI, here's who we are type meeting, but to have some specific asks and, hey, here's what we really are looking for, if maybe a change to this, or maybe the goal is to have the member come to a location in state to meet with your members, or visit a farm or see a child care facility, something like that. And so you can leave with that and then continue that conversation with the contact information.
I'd also add, be prepared to have a two-way conversation. The people that I worked for love to ask questions, and they want to know what you think. But at the same time, they also want to know that you know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and you should know what you're talking about.
You should.
Or the time-tested, whether you're in a meeting in a congressional office or you are talking to a journalist, if you don't know something, say, I'm sorry, I don't have that. Like, be prepared. But if you don't know something, say, commit to following up and do it.
Right. Being thoughtful is really important. I know that with Congressman Obie in meetings, if someone was asking for something specific, especially like an appropriation or funding, he would just flat out ask, well, I understand that you want funding for this. What do you want me to take that funding away from in order to get you the funding that you need, because we have limited budget? So really know what you want, really be well thought out. And if you have solid reasoning and thought behind what you're asking for, they will listen and take action.